Welcome back to another episode of Rock Boys Football, taking a deep dive in what could be one of the best offenses we've seen in college football the last couple of years, and that is this USC team heading into 2023. And I was kind of thinking to myself, we've talked a ton of USC football, transfer portal, recruiting, and a lot of emphasis on how this defense is going to look in 2023. And that's probably why, because if USC does something special during this season, it's kind of contingent on if this defense takes some steps, right? You know what this offense is going to be. It's going to be one of the better offenses we've seen in the last couple of years. Now, how good can this USC offense get? That's what we're going to talk about today. Kind of have some predictions of who emerges in this pass catching room, who emerges in the running back room. Now, before we get into it, just want to say thank you to you guys. It's truly been a blast talking USC football. The support from you guys truly does mean a lot. Try to talk as much USC football as I can. So if you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel. But more importantly, and I truly mean it when I say it, the best part about doing this is talking football with you guys. So let me know your takes in the comment section. We'll chop it up. Again, appreciate you guys, especially the USC fans, for rocking with us like you guys have. And let's get into this team. And I'm actually going to do something that you probably don't hear a lot when talking about USC's offense. We're not going to start with Caleb Williams. We're going to start in the trenches on this offensive line. And you think back 12 months ago as Lincoln Riley was getting ready to coach his first college football game at USC, a lot of the haters, right? We're kind of saying USC thinks they're just playing 7-on-7. They got a good quarterback. They have some wide receivers, and that's about it. When you take a look at that offensive line last year and what even they had going into the year, like that was a really good group, a group that carried for over 5 yards a carry, really dominant in the run game. I think pass protection might be a thing that USC could get better at. But in terms of this offensive line, it was a really quality offensive line last year. And this group looks to be even better, if not just as good, in 2023, right? You lose a guy like Andrew Voorhees, Brett Nealon, guys who were staples in this USC offensive line. But they go to the transfer portal, and they get some really big names. I want to start on the interior. You have Justin Dedich at center, who from all accounts is going to be a very quality center. He's played left guard, he's played right guard, he's played center. You really feel confident about having a redshirt senior working with Caleb Williams under center. The guards, two new faces, Jarrett Kingston coming from Washington State, Emmanuel Pregnon coming from Wyoming. Two guys that Jarrett Kingston's case probably could have been a day 3 pick in the NFL draft. He decides to come to USC, pursue a national championship. He's going to be kind of an all Pac-12 guard. Then you look at Emmanuel Pregnon, although you have some question marks about jumping from Wyoming to the Pac-12, this was a guy that every SEC team wanted, every Pac-12, every college football team in the country really wanted a guy like Emmanuel Pregnon out of the transfer portal. So you're looking at a really good interior offensive line with a lot of experience and with a lot of strength. And it looks like that run game is going to continue in what we saw in 2022. Again, a run game for USC that was absolutely elite. Then looking at the tackle position, right? Jonah Monheim, one of the best tackles last year in terms of pass protection. He was really, really good, and he's coming back playing right tackle. He's going to be a quality tackle. And then you look at the left side, Michael Tarkin coming from Florida. That Florida offensive line was really good last year. Michael Tarkin played a lot for the Florida Gators. An SEC tackle transferring to USC. You look at this starting 5 for this USC offensive line in it. Again, everyone wants to talk about Caleb Williams and the wide receivers, which I cannot wait to get to. I wanted to start with the offensive line because this is really a strength of this offense, and maybe not comparatively to having the best quarterback in the country in Caleb Williams. This offensive line is damn good, and it's deep, right? Elijah Page, the true freshman, looks like he might be the next guy up. He's absolutely massive, certainly has the body to produce as a true freshman. I really do like this offensive line. And now let's get to Caleb Williams in this passing attack, and then we'll get to the running back room. Caleb Williams, I mean, where to start with how does he get better? I mean, if he just holds serve and just stays the same, he's going to be another Heisman Trophy winner. Now, where does he maybe get better? I think managing the pocket, taking what's there. At times, Caleb Williams wanted always to hit the big play. Now, it's hard to pick on him too much because most of the time he did make the big play, and you'd be kind of watching him like hand on your head, he's scrambling around, like, oh, just throw the ball away, and then he throws a 20-yard dot to Jordan Addison or whoever he throws it to. You can't really knock him for kind of playing some backyard football because that is kind of where he excels, kind of like Pat Mahomes at Kansas City. Like at that point, you just got to trust Caleb Williams to make the right decision, which he consistently does, only through 5 interceptions, a 66% completion percentage. he's going to be a dog. And there's not really many. I was trying to maybe offer some way he could get better, but I mean, going into year 3, he's going to take some steps and he's going to be one of the best quarterbacks that we've seen in college football. I mean, you can I feel good about saying that. Now, this is where it gets fun. In this wide receiver room, any way you cut it is going to be good. They could field 2 separate teams and still have an elite wide receiver group on both teams. Now, how does this wide receiver room shake out is probably the question, and kind of what I want to talk to you guys about, and would hope that you guys put in your comments in the comment section, like how you think this wide receiver room shakes out, because I could see it going completely different ways. Now, I'm going to tell you guys my hot take to start. I think Taj Washington is going to be the leading receiver for this USC team. Last year, my pick was Mario Williams coming over from Oklahoma, obviously Jordan Addison, but Taj Washington was number 2. And he, again, the talk goes to like the transfers, right? Dorian Singer, the 5-star Deuce Robinson. Taj Washington has been a staple in this USC offense. He's been extremely productive, even going back to before Lincoln Riley's gotten there. One of the better wide receivers in the country. I really like what Taj Washington brings, but what I kind of want to emphasize more is how I love how this pass catching room kind of balances each other out. You got a bunch of really good players that can do all sorts of different things, right? Brandon Rice, kind of that boundary, big body dude. When you get into the red zone and the throwing windows get tight, you need someone to go up, climb the ladder, and make a play. Brandon Rice is kind of that guy. And then you talk about separators, guys who are just, really clean running routes, just get open. Mario Williams, Dorian Singer coming from Arizona. Those guys are your route runners. Those guys are the guys who are going to get separation. And then you have Zachariah Branch, who he's going to do all sorts of different things. He's a true freshman, but he's going to find the field because he's too good not to keep off the field. I think he's a guy that, one, can press teams vertically. I mean, he is stepping into college football and is immediately one of the fastest players on this team, but also electric with the ball in his hands. So he's a guy that safeties need to respect. And if safeties have to respect him, play a little bit more off and have to respect the speed, I think that those short intermediate passing game really takes off. And Zachariah Branch is a guy that just get the football to him in space and then go let him cook. And a guy who I'd put in that round similarly is Raleek Brown, who's a former running back. Many of you guys know. I think he'll touch the ball from the backfield. He'll work the slot. He's another guy that him and Zachariah Branch, I would kind of put in that category of go let them be the best players on the field. And if you do that, and Lincoln Riley, again, I'm sitting here giving you guys my takes about how this wide receiver room shakes out. Lincoln Riley, 100 times smarter than me. He's going to be able to figure out how to use 6, 7, 8, 9 elite pass catchers to kind of get this best offense. Kind of giving you guys my takes, or at least talking about the skill sets that they bring. So Zachariah Branch and Raleek Brown kind of being the playmakers, right? Get the football to them in space. But want to know what I think truly might bring the most value to this USC offense is Deuce Robinson, and he's not going to play tight end. It sounds like he's going to play that jumbo slot. I absolutely love that. You have so many different wide receivers that can win vertically, that can win on the boundary. Having a big body who can work the middle of the field, kind of be like a safety blanket for a guy like Caleb Williams and Deuce Robinson. You talk about a matchup nightmare. If you want to put a nickel on him, he's 6'6". He's going to be just way too physical for a nickel to work on him. Try to put a bigger body linebacker on him, he's going to run right by him. So Deuce Robinson, in terms of working the middle of the field, working that seam, I think is truly going to bring a ton of value to this USC offense. And if you ask me who's the impact true freshman, yes, Zachariah Branch. I'd even throw in Quentin Joyner. Deuce Robinson's right going to be up there because of the value in the specific role that I think he can play for that USC offense. So I'd be interested to hear kind of your rankings of who's going to be making the biggest impact. And it's so wild because we didn't even talk about Mekhi Lemon or Jacoby Lane, who are going to be so good for USC. Just kind of hard to see them getting significant reps with how loaded this wide receiver room is. And Michael Jackson III, probably another guy, should have shouted out. Now, the running back room is probably equally as deep and equally as talented. You have Austin Jones returning, who, when Travis Dye went down and it was the Austin Jones show, he was phenomenal. I want to talk about Marshawn Lloyd. He's a guy that I've watched a lot of South Carolina football. He was the guy in that South Carolina offense. And I say that because the offensive line, and I'm sorry if we have any South Carolina listeners listening, it was a bad offensive line. Like, could not block. And if South Carolina got anything going on the run game, it was because Marshawn Lloyd was kind of playing hero ball. Now, we talked about how good this USC offensive line was in terms of run blocking last year. You give a guy like Marshawn Lloyd some daylight, some space to operate, I really do think Marshawn Lloyd is going to be a guy that I think could take this college football country by storm. And that's not a knock on Austin Jones, but I think by the end of the year, we're talking about Marshawn Lloyd potentially being a 1,500 yard, if he stays healthy, 1,500 yard rusher. I think he's that good. Where does this, and then I throw in Quentin Joyner, who, I mean, you saw him in the spring game, absolute dog. Where does this USC offense kind of take that next step? The only thing that you really can knock USC, they don't turn the ball over. They're explosive. They're consistent. All their efficiency metrics are good. The one thing you got to get maybe better at, and we're talking about the real percentage points, right? Taking this USC offense from being one of the best teams in the country to being the best team in the country, being one of the best offenses we've seen in the whole entire country. I think a lot of it has to do with the red zone. Right, this was a team that was 56th nationally in scoring red zone percentage. That is, I mean, you talk about top 5 in pretty much every category on offense besides the red zone. You got to score touchdowns. You can't settle for field goals, especially if USC's goal is to beat Georgia or to beat Michigan or to beat Ohio State for a national championship. Those the percentage points, you have to do everything perfect to go win a national title. And one of those things, and a really large thing, is I know you want to talk about what it looks like between the 20s. That's really important. You got to be able to move the football. But when you get down into the red zone, when the throwing windows get a little bit smaller and you're trying to beat a team like Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, you have to be able to put 7 on the board. And especially if this USC defense is not going to be the most, and it's not a Georgia defense. So that's the one thing that you're looking for USC to kind of get over that hump and will win a national championship, is scoring touchdowns in the red zone. And you look how they can do that. One, the run game, right? A lot of teams that really struggle in the red zone are teams that like to pass the ball, like to have those big route trees. And when the areas get tight, when the throwing windows get tight, they struggle to score in the red zone. I think USC is going to be able to run the football in most teams across the country. So that's one thing. And then the other is the big bodies, right? Guy like Deuce Robinson, a guy like Brendan Rice, who like you don't need as much separation to go up and make a play. Those are some guys that I think could add a lot of value to this USC team when they get inside the 20, when they get inside the 10. So I'm looking for the run game, and I'm looking for the big bodies, Brendan Rice, Deuce Robinson, to step up. And if this team even moves up a little bit in terms of red zone efficiency, start scoring more touchdowns when they get inside the 10, this is going to be a freaky offense. And you had the thing we haven't even talked about really is Lincoln Riley calling the plays, who I think is the best offensive-minded head coach in the country. Combine that with probably the most talented offensive depth chart in the country. This truly could be a special year for USC. And if that defense gets right, I mean, this offense is truly going to be one of the better things or better units that we've seen in probably the last decade. I cannot wait to watch this group again. Appreciate you guys rocking with the boys. If you do enjoy the content, consider subscribing to the channel, and we'll talk to you guys later.